students from coast to coast that are interested in becoming a food and agriculture lawyer after law school, here are some quick tips for those students. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cari Rincker. I am the principal and the owner of Rincker Law, PLLC. We have offices both in New York and also in Champaign, Illinois. I have advanced degrees in animal science, and I'm the previous chairperson of the American Bar Association, General Practice, Solo and Small Firm Committees, Agriculture Law Committee. My client base ranges from farmers to ranchers all over the country to also agribusiness owners, primarily small to medium-sized agribusinesses, and increasingly food entrepreneurs. I have 6 tips for those of you that are in law school who are interested in becoming a food and agriculture lawyer. My first tip is to do well in law school, to focus on your grades, especially if you're in your first year. My second tip is some classwork considerations. Third, think about those summer internships or clerkships. Fourth, develop strong relationships with professors. Fifth, to network with not only your classmates, but also lawyers in your community. And additionally, think about those connections with the agriculture industry. Sixth, and finally, think about jobs after law school. First, for those of you that are already in law school and are listening to this video, my biggest advice for you in order to become a food and agriculture lawyer is to just do well in your classes. And I have to be perfectly honest with you, right now, myself, I'm interviewing for an associate attorney who's working on food and agriculture. And about 2 days ago, I asked for him to send me his law school transcript. Your grades matter. Now, I am not going to sit here and tell you that I got A's on all my law school classes. So if that is not you, that is okay. But right now is a perfect opportunity for you to really focus on those classes, especially during the first year. It can have big effects for you in terms of your future employment. My second tip for law students is in considering your classwork, you need to have multiple goals that you're keeping in mind. First of all, you have to pass the bar, right? So you need to take classes that are going to prepare you for the bar. For me, I went to a New York law school. I knew I was going to take the New York bar after graduation, so I wanted to take courses like the New York Civil Procedure course, for example. It was also strongly recommended to me that I take a course in wills, trusts, and estates, and that was valuable for me in preparing for the bar. But in addition to that, you also need to think about your long-term goals. If you are interested in becoming a food and agriculture lawyer, if there are classes in that area that are offered at your law schools, think about taking some of those courses. I say some because your entire course load should not be full of food and agriculture law classes. Myself, as an attorney, I do a lot of business law, to be perfectly honest with you. And so I think classes in terms of corporations, obviously contracts, which is required at every American law school, property law, these are things that are valuable as a food and agriculture attorney. I wish I would have taken more courses in business associations during law school. So think about that as well. So not only do you have to prepare for the bar, but you also need to focus on sort of your long-term goals as a food and agriculture lawyer. One of my biggest regrets educationally is that during law school, I didn't take a law school clinic. I was so focused on taking all of these classes that I should have taken the opportunity to participate in my law school's clinic. And I think that that would have given me invaluable experience in terms of trial advocacy. Third, for those of you that are in law school thinking about becoming a food and agriculture lawyer, think about those summer associate positions. Of course, There are law firms around the country, like myself, that focus in food and agriculture law. But what is most important is that you get that experience. A lot of people think that if I want to be a food and agriculture lawyer, then my resume needs to be full of working for food and agricultural organizations, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, etc. No, that is incorrect. Of course, those experiences can be helpful to you, and they could give valuable experience and a skill set there. But also just working for a law firm who's practicing litigation in any area can also be useful to you as a food and agriculture lawyer. Agriculture law is really every kind of law. It's just geared towards a specific industry. So for myself as a food and agriculture lawyer, a lot of things that I do have to do more with business law and estate planning. I'm doing more transactional work. Right now I have a farm real estate closing that's going to be next week. But there are skill sets that are easily transferable from other practice areas. But what's most important is that right now that you secure those experiences at whatever field that you're wanting to work for. Perhaps you're listening to this video and you're interested in becoming a government attorney. Fantastic. Then have that be your focus right now. And that government role might not be with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It might be with the Attorney General's office. But so keep your horizons broad in trying to decide what's the best avenue for you. My next tip for law students is to develop strong relationships with professors. These folks are unbelievably connected, and I think that as law students you sometimes don't appreciate what's right in front of you in terms of those law professors. They could hear about job openings and relay that to you, and they could also write letters of recommendations for those various applications or even award applications that you're applying for later on in life. I can tell you that even myself, right now, I won't even say how many years after college I'm still in connection with several of my law school professors and also my professors from undergrad who are writing me letters of recommendation for various things. So try to develop those relationships while you're there in law school. My next tip during law school is a network with lawyers. During my first year of law school at Regent University, I transferred from that law school to Pace University. This was the mantra. They said, please set up informational interviews, and I probably heard it every other week of my life during my first year of law school, and it was the best advice I've ever received. I set up so many exciting informational interviews with lawyers, both locally and also attorneys that worked in larger metropolitan areas that were working in different areas of food and agriculture law. During that period of your life, it's easy to not have a very clear path on this is where I am. I kind of sort of think I want to be a food and ag lawyer, but I don't really know what it looks like, and that's okay. I certainly didn't have that clarity at that point in my life either, but those informational interviews with lawyers can be invaluable. So I definitely recommend for law students to set them up with attorneys in different areas, lawyers that are practicing privately, both at small firms and large firms, attorneys that are working for government entities, attorneys that are working for non-governmental organizations, perhaps Farm Bureau, and finally attorneys that are working on the law and policy side of things, perhaps are working for an elected official. My next tip for those of you that are in law school that are interested in becoming a food and agriculture attorney is to start thinking about those connections now. Just this morning, I got an email from a law school classmate of mine who is a trust and estates attorney in New York City. He very recently was on a podcast of mine. We have a working relationship. I refer clients to him and he's referred clients to me, and we're going to grab lunch next time that I'm in town. That is an example of a connection that I built during law school that is still a part of my life today as a practicing food and agriculture attorney. So think about those classmate relationships and what you can do to cultivate them now. My next tip is to think about life after law school. And as I mentioned before, in terms of the internships, people tend to get really hyper-focused sometimes on, I want to be a food and agriculture lawyer. I should be working for law firms that do food and agriculture law. And I'm here to tell you that sometimes those positions are few and far between. There are not just a ton of law firms around the country that do food and agriculture law, or at least focus in that area, unfortunately. So I usually recommend for law students that are interested in a career in food and agriculture law to think about working in litigation, in any kind of litigation. And the first time that I was given this advice, I was actually an intern at the Attorney General's office right after law school, and it was very prudent advice. And she said to me that it is so much easier to switch from a litigation attorney to a transactional attorney later on. If you think about it, when people are having a dispute over a contract, right, over a provision of a contract, if you already have experience litigating those types of issues, then later on as a draftsman of that contract, you're going to be more savvy. And the way that she verbed it to me was that as a litigator, your role is really to read a statute and to litigate various issues and to learn those rules of civil procedure and evidence. And that could be easily transferred to other areas. Okay, so that would be my one tip, is to think about litigation. My next tip is to think about what areas are easily transferable to a food and agriculture law practice. So I, for example, do trademarks for farmers and agribusiness owners. But forming a trademark for a farmer or an agribusiness owner is exactly the same as it is for doing a trademark for a dry cleaner, right? Or somebody of a different type of an industry. So if you get a job working in other fields, those skill sets are easily transferable to the food and agriculture industry. For those of you that are interested in becoming a food and agriculture law lawyer, feel free to contact me. My email is cari@rinkerlaw.com. You can also find me on social media, such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and even Snapchat. See you there, and looking forward to the conversation.